For a long time as a child, I thought I was biracial because my mom was married to a Caucasian man. And so I'm like, okay, but this is my dad. I must be biracial. And a lot of people say, well, that's stupid. How could you not know? Well, because one, I was a kid, and then when you have somebody in your life who says, hey, I'm your father, and they, what you think is love as a father, then you're like, okay, then that's what it is. And then in middle school, I started singing. I started singing in middle school. I was doing talent shows, and then I went to a performing arts school. I went to at the time it was Northside, now it's North Atlanta. That shows you how old I am. But I went to Northside at the time, and I was in the performing arts program there. And then I auditioned for their tour show, which was a touring company that they would sing and dance, and they would go different places and perform around the city locally. But then also we would go to Paris and London and Bermuda and Russia, doing shows all over the place. And I was exposed to them. Again, my mom exposed me to things. The tour show performed for IBM because my mom worked for IBM. So they performed at one of their Christmas parties. And my mom was like, hey, that was pretty cool. Like, would you like to do something like that? And I said, yeah, that looks amazing. And she said, okay, well, let me figure out how to make that happen. So needless to say, we didn't live in the district. I don't ask any questions. I hope nobody from the Atlanta School Board is looking at this. But I ended up going to Northside because that's what I wanted to do. I auditioned, I got in, and so that's how I first got exposed to tour show and performing arts. And again, like I said, I've been blessed. Some of the people from tour show are still some of my best friends today. I mean, because we traveled to Russia together. We went to Bermuda together. We travel all over the world together. And so some of those are some of my closest friends, but that's where it kind of all started. So you had two sides. So you had Nashville Heather, who lived with my mom, and at the time, my Caucasian father. And so there was that side. Then you had Summertime Heather, who was the Heather who went to Louisiana every single summer and stayed out in the country and picked vegetables every single morning with her big mama, and like couldn't wait to wake up in the mornings to run out to the garden because I knew Big Mama was already out there. I knew I was never beating Big Mama to the garden. And so there was that freedom, that like just being in nature, being in the country. That was just, I so appreciate that experience because it was so pure and it was so untouched and unfiltered. It just was what it was. It was just us being in the country and going into the garden every day and picking vegetables and reading and going out past, because my grandmother used to help deliver, not rations, but there would be, food to help the poor. And so my grandmother would go and deliver this food to different people's houses, and I would go and I would help her deliver the food too. And so we would just, that's what we would do all summer. Pass out food, give away food out of the garden because we couldn't eat all of it. And so that was just, a good time of innocence and no expectations. And like, it wasn't like, oh, you got to read books for the summer. They would just let me do whatever I wanted to do. But then there was the school year Heather, who was like with my mom, and we were in Nashville. And then there was my Caucasian dad, who there's like a whole backstory with that ended up, our family situation wasn't what I thought it was. And so, there were two sides of it. For a long time as a child, I thought I was biracial because my mom was married to a Caucasian man. And so I'm like, okay, but this is my dad. I must be biracial. And a lot of people say, well, that's stupid. How could you not know? Well, because one, I was a kid, and then when you have somebody in your life who says, hey, I'm your father, and they, what you think is love as a father, then you're like, okay, then that's what it is. And then see biracial people, I was like, I don't think that's accurate. So I had to try to figure out, like, well, what is this? What, like, and everybody is everybody is going along like, oh yeah, that's the truth. And eventually, like, when I was in high school, I asked my mom, like, hey, I don't think that this is, what it is. Like, explain it to me, because I'm confused, because I doubt this situation. And she's like, oh, well, not all biracial kids look like that and whatever. And so, but then eventually my biological father wanted to meet me. And so that was in high school that we met. And so then that's when I met him, and I learned the truth, and, and learned about my whole other side of the family. And so by this time I'm like in high school. And so I learned about that side of the family. And then there was a whole thing of trying to figure out what the truth is. Okay, well then what does this mean about who I am? What does this mean about my identity? Do I have an identity? Do I have a father? Because this is not my father, and this is somebody who I don't know. So what does that mean? And so then just having to kind of navigate and try to figure out, what does this mean for me so far as who I am, and what is my culture, and what are my values. And so my mom and my Caucasian dad divorced when I was young. So it's not like he wasn't in my life all that time. So they divorced, and that might have been like, I might have been 6 or 7 maybe. And he moved away. And so at the time, when I still didn't know that he wasn't my biological dad, like, there was a lot of heartache there about my dad not being there, because he left the country also. He moved to Germany. He joined the military and he moved out of the country. So similar to my son's experience of the dad just almost at the exact same age deciding, I'm going to leave the country. I was dealing with a lot of loss, and what does that mean? And am I not important enough for him to stay here? And why would he leave? And, why would he go so far? So, I know all the things that my son is going through in his head about, well, what does this mean that somebody would abandon you like that? Then I have to, then after that, then I'm figuring out, okay, well, did he abandon you? Like, as an adult, then I'm like, well, he probably was just like, it's not my kid anyway. So, so just kind of navigating all of those things, and my value as a person, and my value as a woman, because regardless of anything, that relationship between a daughter and a father is a really, really important relationship, because it is the relationship that allows you to, one, know how as a woman you should be treated, how a man is supposed to take care of a woman, what that relationship looks like, what that love looks like, what that protection looks like. And so it was a lot. And then also to deal with the secrecy. Like, there were so many secrets. And how do you deal with so many secrets? And then knowing that a lot of people knew this. A lot of people had to. And then of course, once you meet the other side of the family and knowing that they knew all the time, you're like, okay, there were a lot of secrets. So, managing that. So what does that mean? I was a secret. And, what does that mean about my value and my worth? The fact that I was a secret for so many years. And, and then I had to think about, well, how did that feel for my mom? Because that was a secret that she was keeping, that she was probably terrified that whole 9 months of knowing that she was carrying a child that was not her husband's child. And how was she going to navigate that? And how was my Caucasian dad going to respond when this baby came and was looking, however, because she didn't know who knew? I mean, I'm sure she didn't know. what I was going to look like. Was I going to be looking biracial, or was I going to be looking like cocoa chocolate? But who knew? But just to think about what she must have gone through, all that, those 9 months, dreading the day that I was born, because then she was going to have to deal with it, which she did not deal with it. And my, Caucasian father just went along with the stories, along with everybody else. Everybody just went along with this crazy story, and everybody just played their role, and okay, yep, that's what it is. And so, just having to navigate that and trying to figure out, what does all of that mean about who I am and my value and what matters to me, and and just trying to figure all of that out. So when I was younger, it made me feel like, wow, woe is me. Why did this happen to me? And, how could all these people have joined in this lie against me? And, why didn't my mom make better choices? As I got older, I was like, oh, okay, well, here's the thing. Everybody is doing the best that they can with what they have. And the people who love me did what they thought was the right thing to do. Whether or not it was the right thing or not, which in many of these cases, it was not. They did what they thought was the right thing. They did what they thought was going to be in my best interest long term. Like, my biological dad stayed out of my life because my biological grandmother, thought that that's what was best. My mom's mom didn't want the shame of this situation and the fact that for whatever reason, my Caucasian dad went along with this crazy situation. My grandmother said, that's what's best, because that's gonna, we don't want shame. And I get it. Who wants shame for their family? Who wants shame for their child? And so everybody just did their part in trying to make the best of a very messy situation, And I guess it's just, for me, looking back now, it's just an example of how people do the best that they can with what they have. Like, they all thought they were doing the right things. Whether it was or not, their intention was to do what they thought was best for me. Oh man, that's a loaded question right there. So my mom was just a wild card. Like, she was a wild card. She would do wild things. She would encourage other people to do wild things. She was a rebel. She didn't really care about what other people thought. She just did what she wanted to do. Good or bad. Again, it wasn't always the best thing so far as impacting everyone, but it's what she wanted to do at the time. She was outside the box thinker. She was a Reiki master. She was a life coach. She created jewelry. She was a master at stained glass. Like, whatever she thought of doing, she learned how to do it and do it. She was into feng shui. So she wanted to be there was a period where she wanted to be a feng shui practitioner. She's done all, like I said, she did Landmark, and then she did all the Tony Robbins courses. So she's done all of that. Then she's a certified life coach, and she just, whatever it was that she wanted to do. Like, there's so many stories about my mom as a kid and as a teenager of just wild things that she would do, like trying different things or going different places that she wasn't supposed to go, like in our little city down in North Louisiana. There was a section of town that was called a certain section, but it was where the juke joints would be. Like, so it was like kind of like not where the refined people were supposed to go, because it was where the juke joints and the drinking and the smoking was happening. And so, you know, my mom would like try to sneak and go to that part of town at night and go check and see what, you know, the people were doing in the juke joint. You know, but that was typical of her, of like just doing wild stuff. Like if it's something that she wasn't supposed to do, that's what she wanted to do. She usually would be drawn and attracted to men who were not available to her. Men who were not good for her and definitely weren't good for me. You know, she would, a lot of them would, like I said, be unavailable, and sometimes had wives, sometimes had girlfriends. And a lot of times I would wonder why, and I found out later on the answer to this question, but as a kid, I would wonder why these men were never interested in, you know, being my dad and having a relationship with me and protecting me and taking care of me. And it wasn't until I got older and understood what the situation was that I realized that, they couldn't protect her because they didn't belong to her. Like, so they couldn't protect anybody. And plus my mom did not want me to be involved with these people because I didn't need to be involved with these people, you know. But that's where it's different with me and my son. I would never have someone in my life who couldn't be involved with my son. Like, that's a deal breaker. Like, why would I have you in my life, but you can't be a part of my son's life? You can love me, but you can't love him? No. And that was always my question when I was younger. I'm like, why are these men so crazy about her, but 100% indifferent about me? Well, I didn't know at the time that she didn't want them to have it. And I don't know what that conversation looked like, but she didn't want them to have a relationship with me. Because she told me as I got older, when I asked, she was like, I didn't want them in your life because they didn't deserve to be in your life. And so as an adult, then of course I'm thinking like, well, then why would you have them in your life? Because she was doing the best she could with what she had. Like, for whatever reason, her value, she was always looking for love. She was always looking for someone to love her and to cherish her, and she just never found it. And didn't recognize that that's not how you're going to find it. And a lot of people go through that, period. And she was just trying to get her needs met, her need for love, her need for acceptance, her need for feeling whole the way she knew how, or the way she thought she knew how. And it's unfortunate because she was never, she never got what she was looking for. Unfortunately, she never got what she was looking for. But, I mean, she lived a good life. She was happy and fun, and a lot of people loved her. Like, she was because she was like a life coach like myself, people would just naturally be drawn to her to get love and nurturing and solutions and, their problem solved. They would come to her. But so, I mean, even today, I still have people come. I was at a luncheon the other week. We just want to say, we met your mom and we knew her and we love Miss Lala. People come to me all the time. Oh, I loved Miss Lala. Oh, she was so this, she was, and and that, of course, that always makes me feel good because it's like, that's the side that I want people to remember about her, is that she had a heart that was just bigger than the universe. Like, she had a big heart. She just didn't always know what to do with it. Well, she adored her dad. It was almost like my relationship with my Caucasian dad, because like I adored him. And we had a very close relationship, but my mom adored her dad, but he was an alcoholic. And so he would like they lived in California. That's where she grew up, in California. She was born in North Louisiana in a city called Mangum, but she grew up in California. My grandmother had a hotel out there where my mom suffered an abusive attack out there. But she and her father were very, very close. They did everything together. They would go to the bars together. And it's so funny because my mom would take me to bars on Saturdays. We would hang out at bars in Nashville together on Saturdays, and I would be sitting up there watching cartoons, and she'd be at the bar, and the people at the bar would be talking to me and giving me toys and food. But so she and her dad would hang out at bars. And then one day my grandmother just decided that I can't do this anymore, with the drinking, and you won't stop drinking, and you're losing money, and we're about to lose the hotel. And so then they just, they divorced. And my mom was probably about 6 or 7. And then they never had a lot of dealings with each other. And so he was absent 100%. Like he was 100, because he was an alcoholic. So I think most likely when my grandmother left, he probably just went, downhill. I just know that he wasn't a part of her life, and she really didn't reconnect with him again until like maybe a couple years before he passed away. It's when we were still in Nashville, but it was just the two of us, and some kind of way somebody reached out. He was in a nursing home, and somebody reached out to her and was like, hey, your dad is in this nursing home. He's been asking for you. So she flew out there to California and saw him once, and I think he passed away within that year that she reconnected with him. Well, since she never really talked about it, like I didn't recognize it until, later in life, as I was an adult and I had more tools and more skills and more ability to analyze the situation, right? And it's very interesting. A lot of my understanding about her didn't come until she got hit really hard with Alzheimer's. And so then I had a lot of questions that I couldn't get answers to because her mind, she just didn't have the answers. So a lot of things I never got a chance to get answers to. But she never talked about her dad. She just would talk about how he was a musician and that he was fun, and she'd say he had a beautiful smile, and that he was a great musician. He played the saxophone. And so she would just talk and that's all really she would say about him, and that she loved him so much, and that would be about it.